Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rotoworld Football Show. I am Patrick Daugherty, joined by Denny Carter on Tuesday, September 3rd. It's the regular season, except it's not still quite the regular season. I still have a draft left. Still have a slow draft ongoing. We're in the weird in-between zone of draft season and the regular season. But, Denny, we're so close to getting new dots, new bleeps and bloops on our spreadsheets.
Yeah.
New data that we have just been screaming out for since seriously like February 24th, like
yes.
9 days after the Super Bowl. We've never in the history of the world has a group of people other than 2024 fantasy drafters needed more data badly.
Listen,
anything else than what we've got.
I'm very much looking forward to drawing ridiculous conclusions from week one data. You know, that's what I wanted so much for weeks now, for months, and that's what we'll get soon.
Week one data from a Packers receiver corps playing on a field of unknown conditions in Brazil, and they can't even stand out there, Tony, and because that seems what happens in a lot of these international games, and having to draw sweeping conclusions like Dante Wicks didn't even get targeted, so
right,
I'm in every league.
Yeah, hopefully with this, that's actually the field conditions make me nervous for Christian Watson's hamstrings.
Oh my gosh, didn't need to hear that. Oh, Christian Watson, by the way. Absolutely, who I want taking an international flight in week one.
Yeah,
surely no fluid building up in Christian Watson's hamstrings as they fly to Sao Paulo.
No,
absolutely none at all. But we're going to talk about the new data. But we're going to have our cake and eat it too. We're going to get some news. Samaje Perine and his impact on the Chiefs' backfield. Jamar Chase, is this a 5-alarm fire situation? Denny, the Chiefs' receiver core without Marquise Brown against the Ravens in what would have been the world's lamest revenge game. Jaylen Warren practicing, Rico Dowdle season gathering steam. We're going to talk about, one of our tropes of the summer has been the bank examiner and whom might get our home seized if they don't perform well this year. We're going to talk about some of our bank examiner all-stars. We're going to talk about some of the players we didn't draft all summer and whether we have fear because of this, why we didn't do it. And then we're going to get to some candidates from Denny's positive regression article for the 2024 season. But Denny Carter, you're known to mix it up online from time to time. And this time it was with the very timely news subject, Samaje Perine and his impact on the Chiefs backfield. And Isaiah Pacheco had been a very strong second-round pick. It probably snuck into the first round in some crazy drafts. But that was probably few and far between. Mm-hmm. But a guy people are invested in. He seemed like he had been consolidating touches in that backfield.
Right.
They were cycling through backups. Like CEH was getting another chance, but then he got sidelined for personal issues. Again, they're literally a fullback. They were trying to get in there. Carson Steele, Andy Reid being brave. Yeah, it's a fullback. Yeah, who cares?
We like that.
I'm not scared.
It's good.
I'm not worried. I'm not claiming the first veteran that gets cut. He cut down a week. I'm not going to do. And I did it. He claims, or he didn't claim. He signed Samaje Perine, who did not pass the waivers. He was a veteran and was released. You think that he's way better, quote, than Isaiah Pacheco? Why are people mad at you, and what do you think the fallout is in the Chiefs backfield from this transaction?
Well, look, I mean, who among us doesn't want to spend their Labor Day weekend being yelled at by strangers for suggesting Samaje Perine could be an issue for Isaiah Pacheco?
Hold on. I will immediately join the angry mob. You didn't just suggest he was going to be an issue.
I didn't say way better.
Did you literally say he was better?
I said he's probably better. Yeah.
No, all right. The angry mob has never been more right. Angry mob sacking Denny Carter's house, taking the tiny grill has been carted off immediately from your deck.
Leave my grill alone. First of all, it did its job this weekend. All I'm saying,
one corn cob was great.
I think, look, Isaiah Pacheco has really benefited from being in the Chiefs offense, as every Chiefs running back could do. Okay. It just happens that they're all bad. I really, truly think that a big reason why people are so in love with him as a fantasy prospect and as a real player is because he runs funny. He stomps on the ground and boom, 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 boom. They're like, oh man, this guy hustles. I love this guy. But I mean, he's not good, and Samaje Perine is not great either. But Perine, everywhere he's gone, he's been pretty darn good. He was okay. I'll just.
Well, he wasn't good until they made him a role player.
I'll just address a couple of things. I mean, there's so many. We could have a whole show on the people who are screaming at me about this all weekend. But
the people.
One issue is they say, well, if he's so good, why isn't he leading the Denver backfield? That's a good
That's
question.
true. Why, if he is so good, why is he getting cut by the guy who kept him relevant, Denny?
Right,
I would say this is a good question.
So glad you asked, Pat. It's because the Broncos said we don't want old, dusty guys. We want young guys.
And curiously,
And Andy Reid said, "I'll take that old, dusty guy." You know what he did with the last old, dusty guy he had, Jerick McKinnon. He made an RB1 in PPR.
RB1 is very strong. He was not an RB1.
Well, for long stretches.
Come on.
Okay, all right.
He was
relevant.
relevant.
And then the second argument is this changes nothing for Pacheco. I heard that a lot. And you know what? I'm going to concede that. I think it does change things, but I'm going to concede that. Okay, it changes nothing. You're drafting him in the second round because you thought that McKinnon's demise meant something great for Pacheco, meaning he gets all the pass game work. He gets all the high value touches in the backfield, right? That's why he's going in the second. Pat, I'm old enough to remember. I'm one of maybe 10 people alive old enough to remember when Pacheco was going in the 6th or 7th round last year. Okay, so if nothing has changed for him, then we are overdrafting him by 4 to 5 rounds. That's my argument. I think he should be really going probably in the 4th or 5th round. He's going in the second. Perine is good, as in he led the NFL in running back yards per route run last year. His success rate was better than Pacheco's on limited carries. And yes, he wasn't facing world beaters. And yes, he didn't see 400 carries. I get
he was on the field for all the most advantageous running back situations you could ever hope to find.
I understand all that. But I'm just telling you that Pacheco, nothing has changed for Pacheco, and we're drafting him 4 rounds earlier than we were last August.
So, yeah, that's where I do agree with you and not the rabble. Things have very seriously, materially changed for Pacheco, where we are just getting last year's version of Pacheco, I'd say. He was pretty efficient. He was a rush yards over expected, not all-star, but he was like firmly in the top half of the league. So he looks like he'd be an inefficient runner. But first off, it's easy to be efficient as a running back in Patrick Mahomes' offense, which I guess maybe is a concern if Samaje Perine is even more efficient, even if it's not as like the regular early down back, because no one is suggesting that Samaje Perine will be the regular early down back. But the Pacheco rise from like mid-round dead zone superstar last year, which is, where I had Pacheco in almost every league, his rise to like second round was about him consolidating touches and McKinnon not being brought. McKinnon was a big failure for the Chiefs last year. That was actually like a really bad personnel decision they made. Like they hit on 17 with the Jerick McKinnon like third down back thing, and it was not a good decision.
No, you're right.
Very poor decision. But they could not find a replacement, and it seemed like he had consolidated those touches up until the quite literal very last moment. It's like, I don't know, man, they never figured this out. They're literally this guy number 42, and he's supposed to be the backup to Isaiah Pacheco. Like, I'm just not really buying it. So to me, he was a very safe RB1, like in the like 8 to 10 range. Where now he's just very much. I haven't like plunged him, but he's in like that RB 11 to 14 range, where he's on the RB 1-2 borderline. That's not good enough to be a second round pick. It could spiral further. I do agree with you there. Like if Samaje Perine is as efficient as he was with Sean Payton, which he probably won't be. That was a Sean Payton thing, but Andy Reid is also known for.
Andy Reid's not bad.
No, and Patrick Mahomes. So yeah, I stopped immediately. I immediately stopped drafting Pacheco last week after this happened.
Yeah, I feel real bad about taking him in a recent guillotine league with you and other folks from NBC. Yep. I'm done because I have Pacheco.
The Committee on Public Safety, was that what the French Revolution, whatever that committee was, they're coming for you.
They're looking strongly into me. I
very powerfully into Denny Carter, they call you, into living large off the fat of the French land.
They are looking strongly into the meeting of my neck and the head in the guillotine league. Listen, one more thing. We're 2 years removed from Samaje Perine just destroying Joe Mixon's upside in Cincinnati. In 2022, hold on.
He caught like 70 balls that year still, Joe Mixon. I wouldn't say she destroyed Joe Mixon.
In 2022, Perine had 51 targets to 75 for Mixon. Okay. Wow. Perine had 26% of the Bengals rushing attempts to 61% for Mixon. Now, Mixon
that would be a great outcome, those percentages for Pacheco, just being totally frank. That would be that would still be second round Pacheco, what you just described.
60% of the rushes.
Well, no, that needs to be like 70.
Anyway, Mixon had a 60-point fantasy game that year against the Panthers. and finished as RB12. So I'll just leave that there.
Yeah. I mean, so I don't think it's doom, but I do think the facts on the ground have changed. And if you already have Pacheco, I actually don't think I have Pacheco in any league. Really, I said I stopped drafting him. Never started drafting him because he was just a little too high, that price this year. I totally agree with you there. But I don't think it's like a Kyron Williams situation where like the heart is cut out of the Pacheco case. But things materially changed enough where like I wasn't even like there was no value that I was gonna, because most of my drafts, my home league drafts, of course, were last weekend, and he was not right at any price basically. So,
I mean, I'd much rather take Drake London in that range, just for instance. I'd much rather take like Malik Neighbors than Pacheco. So.
Weekly PPR starter ? For Samaje Perine or
I don't think so. I mean, I think in larger formats, that's the thing is I'm not suggesting Perine's going to be a great fantasy asset. I mean, I know I stashed him on a couple teams. In 14 team leagues, I think that you can get him into your lineup. Maybe I don't know about this week because he's still new to the team. But yeah, I think that he will be involved. Also, you have to remember the running back usage in the pass game in the green zone, meaning inside the 10-yard line for the Kansas City Chiefs, is insane. And we saw that with McKinnon over and over and over. If Pacheco got that, we'd be talking top 3 season for Pacheco. But I don't know if he's going to get there. Also, I want to mention that obviously on Thursday night, Pacheco is going to score 3 1-yard touchdowns.
Yes. Well, now he won't. The Chiefs are the one team I feel like will never regress in the red zone. Like Mahomes is just going to never not throw in the red zone because they trust him more than anyone on planet
that's
Earth.
true. Yeah.
He doesn't throw the picks. I think Samaje Perine, especially if you have like 6 bench spots, is very much obviously needs to be rostered in 12 team leagues.
I agree.
And maybe even started if you have 2 or 3 flex spots. Even in the second flex spot, I wouldn't. I mean, you should be able to do better than Samaje Perine, but I don't think it'd be a disaster if for some unknown reason, like you drafted all the injured guys. Like if your second flex needed to be Samaje Perine, so it could. Like I played 7 snaps. Who's Chris? I was trying to think of who worked for our company. He played 7 snaps as Mike Tirico.
Yeah,
that could happen. But
and 2 touchdowns.
2 touchdowns. Yeah, of course.
I have to say this also. He's not a great 0 RB guy because if Pacheco goes down this year, Perine does not get the workload. Like it's going to be split up between Steele and Prince and Perine. So
Prince is gone, by the way. Maybe CEH.
I'm sorry,
he's out 4 weeks though. CEH
Steele. So anyway, so people said, "Oh, should I keep Braylon Allen over Perine?" Yes. Don't get.
No, I wouldn't. I played for today. I'm not keeping Braylon Allen.
Well, I mean, if you got to use him, if you got to use Perine now, then go ahead and do that. But if you can wait on Braylon, keep him.
Yeah, Braylon's a myth. It's not a myth. Jamar Chase, sort of practice every day. Like he is practicing, and he's not practicing. He's taken like maybe a dozen practice reps this summer. I took Joe Burrow over the weekend and one of my main home leagues. Like seriously, just like this is so embarrassing. Just like totally forgetting that Jamar Chase and not practice yet. Like I don't really want to take Burrow. I was locked in on Dak. And then Dak went like 2 picks before. I'm like whatever, I'm gonna take Burrow. There was a league where I kind of like having I didn't want to play like quarterback roulette. 14 teams. I just want a guy. And I totally forgot about Jamar Chase not practicing when I was on the clock. And I very, very quickly remembered after selecting.
You did, I'm sure.
And just how big of a crisis concern is this? Because we've been drafting all summer. It's a classic situation of like, well, surely Jamar is just going to report
right
like next week. He is with the team, but I don't know what to say about this because I don't know if anyone knows what to say. Are you one of the rare people who knows what to say about this Jamar Chase situation?
Yeah, I mean, I have inside sources, and no, my gut says that he'll play in week 1. I
don't know, to be honest. It seems like a classic. He finally starts practicing week 1, but he's not conditioned enough and doesn't play till week 2.
It doesn't make me feel good, and I very much faded Chase in drafts over the past month when it became clear that this was a long-term issue. Because I don't know. I don't mess with that. Like I don't mess with the guy sitting out the entire offseason, coming back for 5 snaps, and the coach says, "Oh, he's back," and then the coach has to say, "Never mind, he's not back."
which truly never happens. A coach having to be like, shouldn't have said that.
Yeah. I mean, he actually said, Zach Taylor said, I put my foot in my mouth. So it's an embarrassing situation for the team, for the coach. Now, this is super, super toxic. And I just don't want any part of it.
I don't want any part of it. And I wouldn't be shocked if he plays week 1, it's like as a package player, like putting him in the red zone. And then like the vibes are really bad, and then they're not targeting him in the red zone.
Yes, the vibes are extraordinarily terrible.
They are. Jamar had always kind of given up, like big time alpha energy, but he kept it funny. But the alpha was lurking all along. I mean, he just fully deserves to be paid. It's a team that does not pay people. Joe Burrow is one of the first players they've ever paid. And he might be wondering, like, is this team ever going to actually give me what I want? Are they going to do the dumb franchise song and dance with me? He does have 2 years left on his deal. So you could argue he needed to wait until next year to do this. But it's a bit unorthodox to do it now, but it's not hardly unprecedented. And yeah, the vibes are very, very bad. I want no part of it.
I mean, it's the same reason I tended to avoid Cowboys players. The vibes are so spectacularly awful in Dallas that I got scared.
But CD got paid, so all the vibes are good now.
No, they're still bad. It's still really bad.
You look very, very foolish, Denny.
Okay. Dak Prescott is out here saying Jerry Jones is a fool.
Yeah, the star franchise player is saying basically, like, I don't even think about the owner anymore.
Oh man,
it's like, don't even think about him. And yeah, that's going to go really well for Jerry. Dak, by the way, just contract masterclass. Dak probably just wants to get tagged. I can't even remember if he can get tagged. Maybe like financially, he actually can't get tagged.
I mean, he's gonna make $1 trillion.
Yeah, exactly. Dak, yeah, sure, tag me. I don't care. You can tag me twice. Right. That'd be great, like you did the first time, and I'll become the richest citizen in North America. You talk about the Cowboys' bad vibes. It doesn't include Rico Dowdle.
No,
the drumbeat continues to build. Todd Archer of The Athletic kind of admitting, confirming, maybe ever so slightly guessing what we've been suspecting for several weeks now, is that Rico Dowdle is going to lead this backfield in carries. Zeke, Denny in shambles, of course. Zeke just totally dusted. They brought in another dusty veteran in Dalvin Cook, who, this may shock you, also still dusted. And momentum building for Rico Dowdle, or is it all an illusion? Is it all a scam? Will Zeke emerge triumphant? Now, where's your pulse on the Cowboys backfield situation?
I mean, I haven't seen any confirmation that Mike McCarthy's press conference the other day was not generated by AI. So I'm waiting for that. No, I mean, it wasn't. I did look into it. He said, look, we went, having Dowdle not play so much special teams because he has 3-down ability. And he said the 3-down term. And boy, oh boy, have I never been sicker in my life, because I made a bet. Yeah, I made a bet 2 months ago. I said it's going to be Zeke, and my bet was wrong. I was wrong. So it is Dowdle as the lead back. I guess Zeke maybe comes in if Dowdle gets dinged up. But for those who took Dowdle in the 10th, 11th round, I mean, you're probably cooking. That's good stuff.
So you were quote unquote wrong, at least for now. I was also wrong. I didn't think it would be Zeke, but I was leaning towards option 4, back not on the roster. They did add Dalvin. I've seen absolutely nothing to lead me to believe it will be Dalvin. I thought they might add like a younger, like retread type of player. Dalvin's not a threat. I mean, Rico Dowdle, I did draft Rico Dowdle in 2 home leagues over the weekend. Ricky, it is a situation where it's still paid to be an industry guy. Like, they had no clue who Rico Dowdle was.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Absolutely no idea who Rico Dowdle was. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm talking with a tone of condescension as if I win this league. I don't even come close.
No, you've never even made the playoffs.
No, but I did get Rico Dowdle. And I will still be getting. I have my final draft tonight. Almost certainly will be getting Rico Dowdle, because it's the classic. The best ball bros will say, yeah, you should have been saying this for 6 months, man, because they've been getting Rico Dowdle for 6 months and are looking very right. But in all my closing drafts, I did get Rico Dowdle in some earlier drafts, by the way. Rico is a target, though, for me in these very final rounds in these home leagues.
Is he? Let me ask you this: is he a target if you get like 2 running backs in the first 6 rounds or 7 rounds?
Even still, yes.
Yeah,
because the touches, honestly, this year, my feeling is it doesn't matter when you address running back or how early you address running back. Like, after the first once you get into like that Eckler zone, 30 to 35, I don't know if I've ever seen more up in the air touches, like especially after like Devin Singletary zone. It's just like the path to touches is complicated for everyone.
Yeah.
It's a committee for everyone. I feel like it doesn't matter because you can't really get more than like 2 like guaranteed touch running backs, quote unquote, no matter when you're doing it, unless you're hitting it like seriously the first 4 rounds. So even if I have like 2 of my first 4 picks are running backs, I feel like the fight for touches is very fierce.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm still getting Rico Dowdle no matter what the build is.
Yeah. Yeah, that range. I mean, that's where you have to make your bets in that dead zone range. And I made my bet wrong with Dallas. What can you do? Nevertheless.
Yep. Never, ever the less. Did we bet wrong on Jaylen Warren? The basketball bros were just hammering Jaylen Warren earlier in the offseason. Then no one, including the Steelers coaching staff, has talked about him for like 6 weeks. Mostly because he was hurt with a hamstring injury. He is back practicing. He's talking like he's going to play this weekend. And who are they playing? Are they playing the Falcons?
Falcons, man.
Yeah, the Arthur Smith revenge game. Do you have a feeling on this? I mean, it's another situation where it's kind of hard to develop an informed opinion because we just didn't get anything until this week that he is practicing again. Is he going to be like a big surprise? Or like you, I know you've been worried about Art being Najee pilled. He loves the big backs. And can Jaylen Warren still be a drafting connoisseur's hero, basically?
In all of this discussion about Najee or Warren and this and that, we never even considered Cordarrelle Patterson. And
because I'm also still not doing that.
Well, no. Okay, again, like with Perine, I'm not saying Perine's going to take over the Kansas City backfield. That'll never happen. And Patterson will never take over the Pittsburgh backfield. The guy's like 45 years old.
He'll never even be active.
He'll be active.
No, he won't.
And he's playing his former team in week 1. And Warren maybe could be limited because of the hamstring. And they like Najee. I don't know, man. I feel like this is like a potential disaster for playing Warren this week.
Maybe just this week, not this month.
Right. I think down the line it'll be better. But I'm this early season stuff, I'm trying not to play Warren.
So the early, like week 1 or 2 would be the only weeks I would ever even think of Cordarrelle Patterson because Arthur Smith was party to the CPAT revival, of course. But then he was party to he stopped using him. He's like he was the absolute classic, like the kind of like Taysom Hill. Like the second this guy has 10 touches in a game, he can like barely play.
Oh yeah, he's not seeing 10 touches.
He can like barely walk for a month after handling like 10 to 12 touches. So he's gonna be like a true like this gadget play, like in the true sense of the term. He comes out for like a few gadget plays. I don't think even if it's like 3 or 4 touches, which like that's not nothing when like a running back touch pie is so small. But I'm not worried about that. I'm a little for the early season. I'm a little worried, and particularly this week. I refuse. Look, I can't measure it with the analytics. I refuse to believe that Arthur Smith doesn't have something schemed up for Patterson to get into the end zone against his former mates. To get into the end zone?
Oh, hell yes. Are you?
Oh man.
Wait a second. You think it's not happening? Patterson's scoring.
No. I think he's getting two touches for -1 yards.
Oh,
that's my CPAT prediction.
Well, we will revisit this next week.
One of them will be an end around from the 9-yard line. I'll be watching. Like, don't they dare give the ball. They give him an end around, and then he just gets blown up. I'm like, all right, whatever. That's fine.
This is a warning from friend to friend. This is a warning. Cordarrelle Patterson scoring a touchdown this week.
We've been warning our friends quite frequently on the show. We should have talked about this earlier when we were still home with the Chiefs, but not to draft Marquise Brown. I mean, not exactly unique advice. The whole industry seems like, oh yeah, I ain't touching that guy, which could very much come back to haunt us. He is out for week 1 against the Ravens, though. How do we feel about the Chiefs receiver core, which had no upside last year? Now is the first rounder, Xavier Worthy. Now it's Rashee Rice, who was ascendant last year, apparently not getting suspended. How do we think? How do we think things shake out to Marquise Brown? Is he a big threat when he comes back? Things of that nature.
Without Brown, you have Worthy, Rice, and Justin Watson as your 3 receiver sets. Okay, yeah, Watson.
Wish I could yell at you about that, but it's inarguably true.
Yeah, Watson is eternal. We have to just come to grips with that. I don't like it, but we have to. And when Brown comes back, I could see him being worked into the lineup a little bit here and there. I mean, it was a serious injury. He had to go to the hospital, had to stay overnight. So I think it'll be a while before Marquise Brown, who, by the way, what did he ever do to earn the name Hollywood? I mean, the guy's literally done nothing. Anyway, so yeah, I don't think Brown will be fantasy relevant for a little while. And I think this gives a guy like Worthy a chance to really establish himself as a guy who never comes off the field.
Yeah, I mean, Brown, the one thing so first off, people were surprised when it was only a 1-year deal. B, I think it was $7 million, which of course is good money, but I mean, he was the guy no one would have blinked before free agency began. Like, yeah, he's getting 12 to 14 million or whatever. So the market did not value Marquise Brown very highly. He got a bailout and at least landing in a really good landing spot. A team that was extremely serious about updating and improving their receiver core. So they made the aggressive addition of Xavier Worthy. Marquise Brown's the kind of player that is needed to have a steady offseason, didn't need to give the rookie daylight. Maybe there's nothing he could have done if the rookie was really impressive. It was a situation where I feel like for Marquise Brown to be like a regular contributor in fantasy, like he couldn't give that opening to Xavier Worthy.
Right.
Now he's giving him the opening. It's the kind of shoulder injury where he's going to be clearly playing through pain all year, probably getting like shots, injections. And I do worry about Marquise Brown coming back, definitely obviously forcing his way into the rotation and then hurting the value of Xavier Worthy. But I think as far as like Marquise Brown carving out his own, like say wide receiver 3, maybe even wide receiver 4 value, like that ship has sailed. Like he was a perfect offseason player. Like there's a path here, there's an avenue here, but it has to have the perfect offseason. He had anything but the perfect offseason.
Didn't happen, no.
He's banged up a lot, and I feel like in Marquise now, his 2024 fantasy value story will be about more the value he takes from other players than the value he creates for himself.
Unworthy, real quick, and this is something I wasn't able to jam into an article so far this week. Maybe I'll find a way on my Friday column. But he was targeted, Xavier Worthy was targeted on 35% of his preseason pass routes, which is really strong. It could have been like they wanted to really focus on him, like get him the ball a little bit. But I have a feeling that shows you what they want to do with him, and it could be great.
Well, speaking of Denny's articles, we're going to talk about one of them right after this. Week 1 is here. The season begins with NFL kickoff on Thursday, September 5th, as the Ravens face the Chiefs on NBC and Peacock. The following night, it's the Packers versus the Eagles in Brazil, exclusively on Peacock. So to begin the NFL season, sit with us here at NBC and Peacock. Really hope that field is in good shape in Brazil. I have seen, by the way, to be clear, I haven't seen a single report about the Brazilian field. I just know Thursday morning, Rob Domofsky of ESPN, like, guys, they're having footing issues down here. Yeah. The field.
Right.
That is if they can tweet at all. Our man.
They cannot. Oh, man, no, they will not be able to post on the X platform.
I've honestly been stressed about this. Like Christian Watson injures his hamstring, and there's no one to report it. Because they can't do it.
It sounds like you're going to have to join another social media site, Pat.
I never. I'm a dead ender. I was here first. I was here long before that man.
That's an interesting stance, I will say.
Denny, I was also here first before you at Rotoworld, but I can't ever remember the site without you. Content, so much good content. That includes your regression files, which will be released weekly. Yep. You have one for week 1 focused on season regression candidates.
Yeah.
Let's start with, you're going to talk about 2 positive regression candidates. We're going to have to start with, you put Chris Olave here. We're not talking about him first. We're going to talk about Patrick Mahomes first.
Okay.
You have to admit defeat. That it's never been more over for you. Pat Mahomes left so much meat on the bone last year. His absolute floor, 4,400 yards and 27 touchdowns. And what would the positive regression look like?
Right.
Will your face melt off?
I'm hoping not all the way off, but like partly. So like I'll be Two-Face from Batman, that sort of thing. Yeah, I can work with that. No, one side handsome, one side not so much. So I actually wrote in the Rotoworld magazine, draft magazine, many are calling it. I said it's cosmically unfair that Mahomes is a positive regression candidate, but it is undeniably true. Okay, last year, I just lost it. Okay, here we go. Last year, career low in adjusted yards per attempt at 6.9, career low in passing success rate at 48%. Here's a stat. Here's a stat for you, Pat, and please try to stay upright after I read this. Mahomes' I wrote this. Mahomes' unreliable pass catchers led to a miserable 44% air yards conversion rate last year. That was on par with Zach Wilson and Daniel Jones. And my contention is that Mahomes is better than both those guys.
And that even if these guys, like even if Xavier Worthy kind of struggles, even if Hollywood Brown is still just Hollywood Brown, even if Rashee Rice gets suspended for 3 games, there's no way the receiver situation can be worse than it was last year.
Yeah, just so you know, that air yards conversion rate just 2 years ago is 55%. It has been as high as 60% for Mahomes in his career with Kansas City. So, you know, we're talking about massive regret with an upgrade in especially downfield pass catchers. I think, you know, with Worthy and hopefully Marquise Brown eventually. I mean, it's a revenge tour situation, I think, for Mahomes. And last year it stunk having to start him in one quarterback leagues. I get that. I don't think that'll be the case this year.
To be honest, even Justin Watson could maybe be slightly more effective.
Oh, wow. Let's not get crazy.
If Xavier Worthy and Marquise Brown are the guys drawing the attention, like say what you will about Marquise Brown, I feel like defenses are probably still a little more concerned about him than maybe defenses, I guess, were concerned about MVS because the one thing he can do was beat you over the top. But there's just a lot more to think about for defenses this year with the Chiefs offense. And the Patrick Mahomes screaming regression candidate.
So my idea, remember, you know, which I've said many times on the show, my idea for the season is like, it doesn't matter what the Chiefs want to do because the defenses just play 2 safeties 30 yards off line of scrimmage, and that's that. Well, they found the one guy who pretty much makes that a non-factor and can just simply run past those 30-yard downfield safeties with Xavier Worthy. So obviously personnel makes a difference. Couldn't be worse than last year. I think certainly will be better.
Well, even Samaje Perine, to be honest, like there's one more guy they actually have to account for now in the short passing game. Like whatever, they're hanging back. Better get ready to learn 8 Samaje Perine catches for 92 yards, buddy.
Oh,
and all 8 of them are first downs.
That's sweet. That's sweet music to my ears, Pat.
Even Travis Kelce could have more space.
We haven't even talked about Kelce. The greatest tight end of all time. We haven't talked about him.
No one talks about Travis Kelce except for every single commercial on my television.
No. You're thinking of Jason, his brother.
I'm not ready for this, man. Like I tweeted this the other day. Like I'm trying. There's one situation and the people like it. I've been trying not to become cynical about it. You got very cynical about the whole thing very quick last year. I never got bothered by the whole Kelce Swift thing. But Jason Kelce is the one who's complimented. Like, dude, listen, I get it. You got a personality. It's increasingly rare in today's modern athletic environment. You had a beer. Even that's increasingly rare.
He's the first pro athlete since 1992 to have a beer. And he is now famous for it. Every time I turn on my TV, Jason Kelce is literally yelling at me.
He's just screaming. And we'll see.
I would like it to end.
How long before I end up on the fainting couch from the Kelce brothers? Will I be on the fainting couch when Chris Olave has 3 catches for 32 yards in week 1? Or will the guy finally actually regress and do something, live up to the hype, Denny? Chris Olave.
All right. So that's your guy, first of all, right?
I have him in a few leagues this year. He was a good value. The last thing you say before your team gets eliminated, he was a good value, Chris Olave.
You scream the process as you go under the water.
Yes.
So, okay, let me tell you how bad.
Bleak, by the way.
Bad thing. What'd you say?
That was very bleak, by the way.
Yeah. Sorry, I couldn't. My computer is being really loud, so you're gonna have to speak up, son. Listen, Olave got really, really unlucky last year on downfield targets from Derek Carr. Not that Carr is like some unbelievable.
I don't know if you can define that as unlucky.
Well, those are high variance looks anyway. Let me just read you the stats, okay? Olave was targeted 32 times beyond 20 yards downfield last year, okay? He caught 8. That's crazy.
That's Derek Carr, though, man. That's Derek Carr, dude.
So only 3 receivers saw more 20 downfield targets in 2023. Even with that lack of downfield success, Chris Olave was 21st in yards per route run among receivers. I mean, he really last year he was like maybe 3 deep balls away from having a season where people are like, I got to take this guy in the top 8 next year in fantasy. It didn't hit. I think it can hit. I think he is that good. He has a good open score. I don't know. I think we are underdrafting him, and it's not like he's going crazy late, but I think we'll look back at him in London and we'll say, what were we doing exactly?
Well, we think Chris Olave is good, but I just wouldn't be shocked, even though the advanced metrics have been solid, as you've said. If Chris Olave is always a disconnect guy, like the computer says he should be better. Like, I mean, it's Derek Carr. Like, I know it's Derek Carr. The computer says he should be better.
Oh man, that's funny.
He might always be a disconnect guy, but so Derek Carr, one of my mortal fantasy football enemies.
I know.
But my hope is Clint Kubiak, as I pointed out, like Clint Kubiak's who you get when you go to the Kyle Shanahan dollar store. Like, you have any Clint Kubiak left? Yeah, we have like 40 of them left. Can you read? It says right here, we got 40 Clint Kubiaks that I'll sell you for $1.79 because nothing's actually $1 anymore.
Man, it's brutal.
You get Clint Kubiak at the Kyle Shanahan dollar store. But even a dollar store, Kyle Shanahan, I feel like is going to sequence this offense more sensibly.
Oh, yeah.
And that the deep shots will come in more advantageous spots. The defense won't be so ready for them. And that is the main thing I'm hanging my hat on, Chris Olave, is that the looks, even if some of them are off target still because it's Derek Carr, and that's what he does, that it's just going to be a more sensibly sequenced.
I mean, listen, offense. We don't need, if Olave sees 32 deep shots again this year, we don't need him to catch 22 of them to get there. Yeah. We need him to catch 12.
Yeah, yes.
Okay. Like it doesn't really need to be that much better in order for him to meet and exceed his ADP.
So I totally agree with the optimism for positive Chris Olave regression. Who are some negative regression candidates? Raheem Mostert is going to be the first one you talk about. Yeah. And this is something I've really, really been banking on with Devin H. and Denny.
Yeah, right. I mean, it will be good for your finances and the continued ownership of your home.
The squatter I have in my backyard.
if this comes to pass. Now, look, here's how I could be wrong. Okay. Mike McDaniel simply sees Raheem Mostert as the hammer. Okay. As the guy that they just give it to over and over and over again inside the red zone, and he scores all the touchdowns and he gets away with it. It truly could happen like that. But here's what I wrote in the regression files if folks want to check it out on the Rotoworld site. In 2023, Mostert had 33 green zone rushes. That was the third most among running backs, and 14 green zone touchdowns, leading all running backs. He also ran hot as a pass catcher in the red zone. He had 3 touchdowns on just 6 inside the 20 targets.
Wow.
So everything broke right. I would say everything broke right for both Dolphins running backs in the red zone because Achane was crazy efficient too. Maybe that's a product, I mean, this is a Shanahan system, right? Maybe that's a product of the offense, and this will simply just continue year after year forever. If it doesn't, Mostert, folks who drafted Mostert as their RB3 or whatever, they're going to have a tough time. That's all I'll say.
I think Mostert, different kind of player, different role for the Dolphins, but he could be in his Jerick McKinnon phase where it didn't matter because he kept getting the short carries and cashing them down the stretch, but he really ran out of gas. He was way less efficient, way less productive in the second half last season. I feel like that has to be weighing on Mike McDaniel's mind. And like you said, even if they curtail his workload, it could be possible that still like the majority of the workload still comes on that absolute highest value touches of goal line carries. But I just don't see it happening. Mostert was a guy, he's finally figured out how to stay healthy, like humongous credit to him for that. But second year in a row, where 2 years ago they had to start giving him smaller workloads, and he remained efficient in the second half of the season. Last year they did not, and he just got extremely inefficient. And I have to feel like the plan's going to be different this year.
And then there's also the factor, I'm betting on this Dolphins team having to play from behind a little more this year, maybe a lot more. That undercuts Mostert's bread and butter, which is, taking the air out of the ball with the lead. I think that is probably more advantageous for Achane.
Yeah, I was all in on Tua last year, and I was in a lot of 2 quarterback leagues.
You missed it by 1 year. You missed it.
Well, I didn't. I got Achane, so I need the Achane prophecy.
Well, I was saying on Tua. This year is the year.
No, it's not. Tua is never going to be a guy who has the year. Please stop with that.
I mean, I'm not saying a quarterback 1 overall. I'm just saying
top. Like
no, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that he can he can move now, which is nice.
You're really, this is your big narrative that you're in on this year. Last year you were in on one good Jordan Love quarter from 2022, and that paid off for you big time. So we'll see if one quarterback losing 10 pounds,
60.
What? No.
Or 50. I forget.
Tyreek, he didn't lose 50 pounds. He didn't have 50 pounds to lose. Tua did not have 50 pounds to lose. I will say that.
Tua looked like a center last year.
His own teammates were calling him overweight, but he didn't have 50 pounds.
He actually looked. I'm sorry. For a professional athlete, he looked ridiculous last year.
He was not small. He was not small. The regression is not going to be small for the second player, Denny. Who is it? Your negative regression candidate.
Jordan Addison?
Yes.
Jordan Addison, just real quick, 10 touchdowns on 70 catches last year, 14.5% touchdown rates. That, as the kids say, ain't happening again. 8 of those scores came outside the red zone, so he didn't get anything easy. It was all like over the top stuff from Cousins. Many would say that Darnold is a downgrade to Cousins. And I believe he's a downgrade, but not a massive one. Not a life-altering one.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, of course you think that. But we'll see. We'll see after this week, after he throws for 220 yards and 1 touchdown against the Giants.
Oh, yeah, it's the Giants.
Anyway, Addison, yeah, I mean, I think you're drafting Addison thinking, I'm going to get 9-10 touchdowns this year, and you're not. So just remember that.
I will say Addison is a guy where he is having touchdown regression, but he could make up for it with just the greater overall volume. No TJ Hawkinson, no KJ Osborne.
That's a good
only 2 pairs of proven hands on the Vikings. And he could be a classic offset guy. Where don't expect the touchdowns, but
I wish I would have mentioned that in my article.
Yeah, it's fine. These things happen.
I can go in and edit it. Since it's not in the newspaper, I can go in and edit that.
You should go edit that. You should stay with us. We'll be right back after this. Fantasy football season just got $1 million better. Create or join a private Yahoo Fantasy League and enter the $1 million NBC sweepstakes. Plus, earn extra entries to win when players on your fantasy roster score a touchdown during an opening weekend game on NBC or Peacock. We have 3 of them. Download the redesigned Yahoo Fantasy app or go to NBCSports.com/FantasyMillion to learn more. Yeah, I bet you forgot we have 3 opening weekend games, not just Thursday, Friday, but also Rams-Lions Sunday night at 8:20 p.m. Eastern on NBC Peacock and NBC Universo. Bet you didn't think I'd remember that third one.
No, I knew you'd remember it.
A few years ago, I had to watch Sunday Night Football in Spanish, where no fault of NBC, the local affiliate is not owned by the Comcast Corporation. It's owned by one of those regional television affiliates, and they were feuding with DirecTV. And I watched Sunday Night Football on NBC Universo for like a month, and it was a very interesting experience.
That's good. That's good. You learned a little something. I remember
I learned to buy an antenna. I do now have an antenna for when these things happen.
You learned to buy an antenna once. My 8th grade Spanish teacher told us to watch all of our TV in Spanish. And I did not at all. I remember that though.
And you don't know a single word of Spanish to this day, do you, Denny?
I know at least 6.
Denny, get some culture, because we might have to be learning Spanish when these players fail us. We're going to have to be changing careers. We're going to have to be bilingual. We're going to need new life skills. I will be learning Spanish. Everyone knows this when Devin Achane busts.
Yes.
And I've become like a salesman. And there's a lot of Spanish speaking people in your region, Pat. You need to learn Spanish. You should have thought of this before you took Devin Achane in every single league. Devin Achane is what I'd call one of my bank examiner players, Denny.
Yes.
Where if he fails, the bank examiners, of course, camped out in my yard. We've talked enough about Devin Achane where we don't need to do that anymore. But who is a player that you have where if they do not succeed this year, you are financially ruined, Denny Carter?
Yeah, I mean, look, obviously all the Seahawks players, except for Tyler Lockett. So JSN, Metcalf, Geno, and Noah Fant. I will lose everything if any of them misses 1 snap this year. Hopefully they don't. So I have a scary amount of exposure to Jayden Daniels. And it's curious because I spent the entire pre-draft process saying he wouldn't be good, and then I took him.
You and I were in chorus on that, and then we have been in chorus on taking him on every single team we have. Partly, it's not as incongruent as it seems because we did say, listen, the guy will never be good in real life. We don't care about that.
No,
We
I don't
care
care
about fantasy, or he will be amazing.
So
And that's that
I
what
think
we're still banking on.
there's a lot of indication that this Washington defense is going to be pretty bad. Cliff Kingsbury offenses often lead the NFL or among the top like 3 or 4 teams in quarterback runs, right? Jayden Daniels took off a lot in his final college season at LSU and was crazy good as a rusher as far as like yards over expected and yards after contact, all that stuff, right? So I think we're going to see a lot of that. I think we're going to see a lot of Jayden Daniels running in the red zone as like the primary rushing threat. So I know folks, a lot of folks I respect in the fantasy industry say, well, Jayden Daniels he's just a floor play. Like that's what rushing quarterbacks are. They're just floor plays. And I understand the concept behind that is that you get that 60, 70 yards and a touchdown, and that's the floor. And then all the passing stuff is icing on the cake. And so I understand the concept, but I would say that I don't know if we're projecting a proper amount of rushing for Jayden Daniels. And so I want him everywhere as an upside option, not just a floor option. And he took crazy hits in college, and he's really small and skinny.
That's what scared us more than anything. Not even necessarily that he was truly not good. It is the play style and kind of the recklessness and a belief in his physical abilities, which in the SEC did exceed everyone else. Right. But in the NFL, there's pretty much no one whose physical abilities exceed everyone else.
And so, he's a guy who the bank examiner is very interested in seeing how things play out.
Well, he couldn't believe it when he saw he was one of your flag players. That's why, again, I don't know how it's legal, but he's been on your deck for 2 months. Ever since the first Jayden Daniels share was taken. We got to get more people on this. We need one person at the Carter house 24 hours a day.
Yeah, he's in a tent. I can actually go show you if you want.
It could be we could be able to seize the Carter home as early as week 3, folks. If Jayden Daniels breaks his collarbone, the deck is ours. The 18-hole golf course that is in Denny's backyard and privately owned by the Carter family is ours. The grill is ours. We are taking this Carter house.
The dog, Ziggy.
Yeah, Ziggy, they're taking your dog. That seems very cruel. But with Jayden Daniels, too, they're wrong about it's not just the rushing. The two things that won Jayden Daniels the Heisman Trophy were the rushing and the deep passing. So it's going to be the rushing. It's going to be the big plays. And the reason we are all in on Jayden Daniels is like it's pretty hard to get any values on like flashy quarterbacks anymore. Hard to get any values on dual threat quarterbacks, like big play quarterbacks, because everyone knows like if you're a dual threat, if you hit long passes down the field, that's like one of the life hacks to fantasy success. That's why everyone is taking Anthony Richardson in the 5th and 6th round. It's why Josh Allen is always the QB1, no questions asked, over Patrick Mahomes, despite being the best player of his generation. But I still, this all summer, I failed to spot the difference in the fantasy cases between Anthony Richardson and Jayden Daniels.
Yes, right.
Jayden Daniels is a more proven player than Anthony. Anthony Richardson played 1 year at Florida. Yes. Wasn't that great. Did look a lot better. Like he looked like a guy who understood how to use his skill set in the NFL last year, but he didn't understand how to stay healthy. And I just have never understood that disconnect.
There was also
Anthony Richardson and Jayden Daniels.
I don't know if we ever talked about it on this show. Sorry to interrupt you, but I had to get this out. There were pretty concerning reports about Richardson as a passer out of training camp and out of team practices. I think when they practiced against the Bengals, like that, I know that those are just a few reports over the course of a summer. I think Colts fans would say you got to take it into account, all of it, which is fine. But man, some of those reports about him not really, struggling to read defenses, throwing to spots instead of players. The defense being able to manipulate him, that's concerning. And it's not that shocking, honestly. Like you said, Pat, this is a guy who has very little experience under center in game situations.
And it's just so hard to find the late round dual threat, especially since Lamar Jackson's 2019. Yeah. That's when fantasy managers like, we can't get caught flat-footed by this again. Like that's why we were so proactive on Anthony Richardson. And it's just weird that proactiveness did not go all the way to Jay. He's in the top 12, to be fair, to fantasy drafters. So it's not like they're totally asleep on him. But I have just if you value Anthony Richardson that highly, I feel like you need to value Jayden Daniels that highly.
Jayden Daniels could easily be the fantasy MVP.
He could very easily, and that's why he's a bank examiner player for Denny. I speak of like big play threats. this is something I fall for, like always. And I like guys who can like change games, who can change matchups on like one target, one carry, even if it's like a PPR league. So I'm all in on DK Metcalf because I'm all in on the same narrative you are about the Seahawks. Like it's going to be better sequence, better design, more pass heavy, but more pass friendly. There's like not just passing more, but passing smarter. So I'm all in on DK Metcalf. I'm all in on George Pickens, which that one I frankly don't have a great case for. It's just with Pickens, I couldn't get out of my head like Mason Rudolph turned this guy into easily a top 20 receiver. Like if he even marginally better quarterback play than Kenny Pickett could make this guy, his fantasy returns be as good like as his on paper skill set. And then AD Mitchell, who this honestly was the only Colts receiver that seemed to be generating like positive reports out of Colts. Not that Michael Pittman needs to be generating reports. He's a proven entity at this point. But I thought the AD Mitchell reports were kind of like a guy who sounded like maybe he was underdrafted to me. So I got him a lot. It's like one of my freebie wide receivers. And yeah, my home will be being seized if these big play receivers do not convert their big plays, Denny, because they're not PPR guys. I'm in on a lot of non-PPR guys, despite basically being in exclusively PPR formats.
It's an interesting approach, man.
It is.
I like AD Mitchell. I like the chip on his shoulder. I like that dog in him. Alec Pierce is still around. The coaches are still talking him up.
Pierce is lucky not to be cut, but
I mean, you might be right. I think that AD Mitchell is almost certainly going to have a couple, maybe three, like crazy games this year where he hits on like 2 or 3 deep balls and he just takes it to the house. But beyond that, I feel like, this Colts, as far as pass volume goes, maybe not pass rate, but pass volume, I feel like this Colts team is going to be definitely in the bottom half of the league. Michael Pittman is a magnet. I don't know how he's going to draw consistent, but you knew that about his target situation.
You also know that I'm not like a bold predictions guy. And when say we get like a bold predictions, I'm like, man, I'm not doing this.
No, you do not like that.
I don't like bold predictions. One thing I have bandied about in my head though, is just what if Adonai Mitchell is just the Colts' number 1 receiver?
Wow.
Yeah, they've never been fully satisfied with Michael Pittman. I guess they did pay him, but he's just got that's not like a truly elite skill set. And what if Adonai Mitchell has that elite skill set, that downfield winning skill set that is in increasingly shorter supply in the NFL? And what if he's just basically the de facto Colt? One reason I haven't put this in print is because I don't believe that's the most likely outcome, of course, or even likely outcome. But I don't think it's an impossible outcome, I'll say, with AD Mitchell and the Colts.
I mean, I think Michael Pittman is a nice, easy button for Richardson, and I don't know if Mitchell can become that. But Mitchell is certainly a better, I should say like a more explosive type receiver who can make big plays on his own. Michael Pittman doesn't make any big plays, but that's okay with the Colts. They're fine with that.
We'll do our second bank examiner players quickly, so we can at least get to each one player we didn't draft and has us scared. Who's your second bank examiner? I feel like you could have gone a little more underground, could have gone a little more indie, a little more hipster for this one.
No, I'm going to go mainstream. I'm going to go with the guy everybody knows. Because no one knows Jayden Daniels, but everybody knows Tyreek Hill. And because of, my working theory that the Dolphins are going to have to actually try this year and throw more.
Ate one salad and your whole life has changed.
God. I mean, I would like to push back, but that's actually what
true. You've been saying, basically. Yeah. Tua eats salads now.
I thank you, Tua, for eating salads so you could ruin my entire NFL season. So Tyreek, 1,800 yards last year, 45th in wide receiver routes. I believe he has 2,000 plus yards in him. And
no.
Easily. I mean,
Tyreek's peaked. You go first. I'll tell you my
So I've been taking him over everybody. I've been taking him over CMC. I've been taking him over CeeDee Lamb because the vibes are so bad in Dallas. And I'm a vibes-based drafter. So I do think Tyreek has one more legendary season in him.
I actually don't. And it's not just because he's turned 30. But Tyreek, I think, is at the point where this guy gets banged up a lot and has just played through all of them. He did miss a game last year, but he's someone who's had really good injury luck because he actually takes a lot of big hits,
Mhm.
And he is a smaller guy. And I've been shocked how resilient he has been his entire career. I just don't know if I see that resilience. I think he's kind of been on borrowed injury luck time, and not that I'm like predicting. I'm not predicting like a major like lower body injury because you can't predict those, of course. But it's harder to bounce back from those when you're over 30. He was really close to missing time last year several times. Instead, he led the league in receiving. Didn't ever do that. But I just basically I don't think there's another gear for Tyreek to ascend to, another level for Tyreek.
He doesn't have to. That's my argument. He doesn't have to. He
I mean,
can stay at this gear and more volume, and bang, he's over the top.
We'll see. Yeah, I mean, Tyreek is a good guy to be overinvested in anyway. Much better than being overinvested in Tyler Conklin, by the way. Which I do have, I think, in the true sense of the word, literally on every team I have drafted, because there's no upside flyers in that tight end 13 range this year. There's just none of them essentially. And Tyler Conklin, you mentioned 3 more Chris Olave deep catches. If Tyler Conklin had just scored 3 touchdowns last year instead of 0, like his entire fantasy narrative would have been different. He was top 10 in both tight end receptions and yards, I believe, at least top 12 in yards. Where he was targeted as a tight end 1, but unsurprisingly, with Zach Wilson and company delivering those targets, he could not score.
Right.
Like the worst offense environment we've ever seen, the target competition still remains very minimal in the Jets skill core. And I just think Tyler Conklin was a low-end tight end 1, so I'm not saying he's like going to be a star, but who was very rarely even cracking the top 20. And I just think he's going to be like the tight end 12 or 13. And for some reason, I wanted that value in my bag. Like, even if this happens, like, oh, yeah, cool. I got the tight end 13. Not really sure why I was so obsessed with that. But
I think it could be better than that. I think with some touchdown luck, it could be better. I mean, you're talking Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, Tyler Conklin. That's the list of Jets who are going to catch passes this year. So there you go.
One player that you've been worried about not drafting is one of the only places we're hoping some tight end upside resides, but you apparently did not agree. Who is someone you did not draft that you're maybe worried about not drafting?
Brock Bowers, man. I don't think I took him at all this offseason. Mostly because he strikes me as the kind of player where NFL teams have no idea what to do with him because he's not a tight end and he's not a receiver. And so you have a Pitts situation and you have Antonio Pierce not exactly being like the most like curious coach about how to use players. And he wants to ground and pound and no matter what, this and that. Michael Mayer, they're talked about as someone who's going to continually be involved. And I don't know but there is an upside.
He injured his foot too. I mean, he kind of buried the lead. It seemed like he is going to play this year, but he was sidelined for a while with a foot injury. He's another guy. Yeah.
He's always
yeah. He had Brock Bowers is always hurt. Yeah. He had one of my major pre-draft bugaboos with Brock Bowers was that he had like experimental ankle surgery last year. Like, I absolutely love when my first round tight end already has an experimental ankle operation on his resume.
So here's how things could go really awry for me as a Bowers doubter is if they just use him as a scam over the middle and Gardner Minshew loves
Crane says they're going to do that, by the way.
Right. And it could happen. So I talked, the easy button, actually, that's a phrase I'm borrowing from Hayden Winks on the Underdog show. But yeah, Bowers could easily be the easy button. And here's the apocalyptic scenario, Pat. If Devontae Adams is shipped out during the season, if the Raiders start 0-4 and he's basically saying, I'm not coming to practice anymore, and they trade him, Bowers goes bananas in that offense, and I am losing everything.
Say bye-bye Carter family Subaru.
I mean, like I'm going to have to move to Brazil.
Yeah. And you really hope Blue Sky is taken off by then. Yes. To get exiled to Brazil. One guy who I did not draft a single time, whether it was best ball, not that I was a big best ball bro. I did like 10 drafts. Best ball redraft. And I'm also not nervous about it at all. Just be told, Lad McConkey just never understood what the argument was supposed to be. Like he might be the number 1 receiver in one of the most run heavy offenses in the NFL. Even if they're more pass heavy than expected, like it's not going to be Lad. He's the tall guy's always hurt. Like just like, wow, I want a part of the Chargers receiver rotation. I'm supposed to get excited about it. This could be a clip played back, like, at my funeral by my haters.
Yeah.
But
it could be.
Never once felt compelled to draft Lab McConkey, and I'm going to sleep easy with no Lab McConkey.
I don't. In that part of the draft, I don't even look at them.
I was just taking A.D. Mitchell. I was taking Brian Thomas. Like, I just didn't. There was other rookies where I was like,
Brian Thomas.
The upside case is so much more plausible with these guys than it is with Lab McConkey.
Brian Thomas will have more fantasy points in like the first 4 weeks of the season than Lab McConkey will have going into Christmas.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So,
let's just be real about the environment. I don't care if you liked him as a prospect. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter in these situations.
Also, no one covered the Chargers. No one covers the Chargers. We know this.
It would be great if we could get some coverage.
They're in the small market of Los Angeles, California, so they can't get any coverage. But there was just nothing on Lamb. I'll say there was no reports on Lamb McConkey. It's all I bet you didn't see this one.
Well, we had
the OC register on August 22nd. Like, all right, I didn't see.
Yeah, we had a blurb in July, I think, that was.
We did. It was from me that he was in 3 receiver sets, and then there was just nothing ever again.
And he has a connection with Herbert. All right, fine, whatever. I don't know if that makes you feel better about your pre-draft take on McConkey. Go ahead. It's a terrible landing spot.
It was a terrible. In theory, it was a good landing spot because there's such a targets vacuum. But yeah, just the nature of what this. Dude, I kind of lost any Chargers offensive optimism when Herbert got that foot injury. I just feel like that was Jim Harbaugh. Like, you know what, we are going to circle the wagons and just play Harbaugh style football. I'm not opening it up because I have this special talent in Justin Herbert, and I think that kind of killed any chances we had at least early in the season of seeing a different style of Jim Harbaugh offense.
Right. So with Jim Harbaugh, you know what you're getting: defense and running. That's all you're getting. Please, I'm begging people to stop pretending that it's going to be different this year. It's not going to be different. It's going to be the exact same formula as he's always used.
Everything will be different for you if you listen to the Rotoworld Football Show. We're going to be back for our first preview of the year on Thursday with Mr. Kyle Dvorak, where we break down the entire Week 1 slate. Then Kyle and I have a waiver show next Monday. Denny, do you have anything on Friday, or do you not have anything on Friday yet?
I do. I'm glad you asked, Pat. Friday at noon Eastern, the only legitimate time zone. I am doing a Q&A live stream on the NFL and NBC YouTube page. I will post that link to the X platform, formerly known as Twitter.
So we got so much stuff coming up. My rankings coming out later this week, Thursday morning, as always. The regression files from Denny, the funnel thing from Denny, question mark.
I will have the funnel thing on Friday on the site
the
as
funnel
well.
Thing. Just everything's here. The regular season's here, so all of Rotoworld's here. So for Denny, I'm Pat. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back on Thursday afternoon, Mr. Kyle Dvorak.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.